Here we are, pre-show again for the NGE Shadowverse Open. We're on number 6 now. It feels like just yesterday that we got started.
Week number 6. We are almost halfway through. We still got the 4 weeks left, and then the 2 weeks of the playoffs, and then the finals after that.
Yeah, still a lot of Shadowverse to come, but
that's right.
Right now we're still waiting through the open entry area of the tournament. And joining us, once again, we would like to welcome Envy Bear back to the show to talk a little bit of Shadowverse with us. Envy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me again.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Now, the biggest thing to me that stuck out, that's real interesting, because we had a conversation with the one and only Aya Senpai yesterday.
That's right.
And a big topic of discussion was Havencraft, right? And I still have it. It's still here. The curse will remain, and it's going to remain for the Western audience until we can actually have a tournament-winning Havencraft deck. But interestingly enough, in that week, Envy, and I'm not sure if you were tuned in for that, but in that week in the JCG, there was one winner on one of the tournaments that was able to push through with a Havencraft deck. This week, however, both Saturday and Sunday, there were Havencraft winners. They were playing Havencraft Shadowcraft as their 2 decks, and they were able to take the win for the tournament. Not only that, but the top 2 finishers of Saturday's tournament, both of them were running Havencraft Shadowcraft. What do we even make of this, Envy?
Well, first of all, congratulations, Haven, for being relevant.
Yeah, you
party
mentioned how
poppers.
you wanted. You mentioned a few weeks ago how you wanted Haven.
It's about time,
to
really.
be on top.
I feel like Japan has always the Eastern has always been like the people who like innovate. I think the most with tournament decks, and I don't know. I feel like the West is content to just bring the same thing every week, you know, with like a little bit different here and there, but. Yeah, I mean, it's up to Japan, I think, to change things around. So I'm actually kind of glad we saw some Aegis lists, some really interesting looking Aegis lists.
Why
Too.
don't we take a look at some of them? I believe we can pull up on screen the first one. Now there were 2 different kind of Havencraft lists running around. The ones on Saturday that were played were actually card for card the same. The one that was played on Sunday in the finals I'm talking about was slightly different. So when we have time, throw that up onto the screen and we can see the exact differences. But one thing that I noticed for sure was that Ancient Lion Spirit, which was a card that I think a lot of people had a lot of faith in, people are now only taking 1 drop of. And Dark Jean, which was kind of a not really that well-explored card for a while, is now being brought en masse. 3 drops of Dark Jean. Do you feel like there's a better highlight? Oh my god, there's a dance party going on. I was
not ready for that.
I was not ready for that.
I mean,
people are partying for Havencraft
more than
right
welcome.
now.
I mean, I love a dance party as much as the next guy.
But before we get too sidetracked, sorry, Envy, tell us about the benefits of taking less Ancient Lion Spirits and relying on Dark Jean a little more.
It's all good. Ancient Lion Spirit, I mean, it's an evolve effect. It's 1 less mana than Dark Jean, but Dark Jean, if you have no board, is a very similar effect to Lion. What I see it as is basically they can't always evolve all of their lions, obviously. And if you don't have evolves, Lion is a dead card. Lion is horrible without evolves. So what it is basically Lion is acting as a 4th Jun in the deck. And I feel like all of them are going for that. They're all going for like the Aegis 4 Jun core, and that's what they're going for. That's how they're winning every game, I think. It's a target to just cover Dragon and Shadow in the most blanket way possible, I think.
And you've already got the Priest of the Cudgel, so you're spending your evolve points there. And most of these decks have 3 cudgels. And having a 3rd Ancient Lion or a 2nd Ancient Lion, you're not going to be using all those evolve points.
The other thing that's really interesting to me that I would love your thoughts on is the balance between Heavenly Hound and Frog Cleric being the 2 drops that are opted for in this deck. I know that there's some kind of 2 drops are kind of highly valued, I feel like, in Shadowverse. Heavenly Hound is not one that we would typically see too much. Maybe something like Unica makes a little more sense, but tell me a little bit more about why you think that these cards were included.
There was a time when Hound was like the 2 drop for Haven. But yeah, I mean, Unica heals. I mean, obviously it's a much better choice. I mean, 4 health ward for essentially for free, right? Because you're going to be evolving things anyway. Is obviously not bad, but I would prefer like a healing, like a Frog Cleric or a Unica in that slot. The ward is nothing to laugh at or anything either, but I think honestly, that 2-drop slot could really be any of those 3, as long as you don't get crazy and put like an aggressive 2-drop there. I think the point of the deck still fits, you know.
Well, let's take a look at the second. So obviously, the last things to note here is Heavenly Aegis. No Test of Strength, and Curie is that 7-drop to help tie that transition from the 6/7/8 over. But let's take a look at the other deck that was run, and this was brought by. We haven't mentioned the names of the winners yet, but this particular Havencraft deck that did run Test of Strength was a Sunday winner. Sunday's winner was Nohohon, is his name, and he brought this particular deck, Test of Strength. There was Radiance Angel was included, and this one uses Unica, and there's still a Frog Cleric that's in there.
And there's 2 Lion Spirits.
Right. So a little increase in Lion Spirit. I'm not really identifying. I mean, this deck seems to make a little more sense to me, but talk to us a little bit about it, Envy.
This deck is basically the super safe version of what they were trying to do. Obviously, if you're not as confident with this kind of list, or if you don't want to play any games, like you want Haven to perform and you want it to consistently keep you at a certain life total, and like you don't want to mess around, this is what you would play. A lot of healing, and Test of Strength is very powerful with Aegis, obviously. So.
It's interesting as well. It feels like that Test of Strength seems to be that same play point cost and cycled out for what was Prism Priestess in the other list. And I guess the Prism Priestess is just kind of helping you make your game more consistent. What do you think of that? Because Test of Strength in many ways is kind of a tough card to play early on, especially. Which do you prefer? Would you prefer to have Test of Strength or something like Prism Priestess instead?
I mean, if you're going to play Test of Strength in your deck, obviously you want to have Test of Strength, like, period. Like, you need to have it. It's not a card you can play. Like, Prism Priestess is not helping you at all against Dragon, and it's not helping you, unless it's pulls Tribunal, it's not helping you at all against Shadow either. It's not doing anything for you anyway. So you can look at it effectively as a Test of Strength early game, because it's not doing anything either. So, I mean.
Right. So just to go back a little bit here, the first place winner on Saturday's JCG tournament is a user called AAA. And then second place was Habu Mizuho. And then, of course, on Sunday, there was Nohohon, who we just talked about. And then Dunas was the second place finisher there. So those were all the winners. And it was Haven Shadow on Saturday. And then it was Haven Shadow, Dragon Shadow in second place there. And it's really interesting to me, Envy, and I would love to hear your thoughts as somebody who's kind of more accustomed to the Western tournaments as far as all the other events that run. We see, especially in the NGE Shadowverse Open, I feel like, but also outside of it, a lot of the Western players are running Shadowcraft as one of their decks, and then they're really relying on Swordcraft, I feel like, is the other deck that is very popular in the Western tournament scene. We've kind of chosen to use Swordcraft as our outside craft that is not Dragoncraft, right? Whereas it seems like Japan is really focusing on Havencraft in this way. Why do you think that is?
Dragon has been popular in the East for a long time, and Haven is just kind of like a target. Aegis is like a target to that dragon. So because everybody over there has dragon, it's like you might as well play something that targets against it, right? The West has been always a fan of Sword. We've been playing Sword since like since I started playing the game. Sword's been like tier 1 over here. So like we know how to play some Sword. We're accustomed to playing Sword. I think as long as the West sticks to playing Sword, sticks to playing Forest even, like a threat of roach combos and stuff, I don't see the Japanese meta creeping into us. I don't see Aegis Haven becoming like, you know, a possible really dominant thing, because it is targeting that dragon over there in Japan.
That's actually a very interesting point, because Forestcraft, as a general kind of deck usage overview for the JCG tournament of this last week, actually took a large hit. There were maybe only 10%, 16% of the decks were Forestcraft, maybe even less, and none of them actually made it to the playoff stage. So Forestcraft in the East has kind of taken a dive. And interesting that you mentioned that, Envy, because it definitely makes sense in terms of roach combos and not really having the tools to protect yourself. In many ways, the healing can help against a roach combo, but sometimes you just get taken down from 20 to none, right? And I wonder if that's something where I wonder if that's just something that the Eastern meta is choosing to look away from, choosing not to play Forest, because it's obviously very dominant in the East, or sorry, in the West. I would love to hear your thoughts on kind of why you think that is.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like the East has, again, they've always been like that region that really likes to experiment and stuff. And showing 2 Haven decks were exactly the same. So I feel like leading up to this tournament, there was like, you know, a list floating around. There was like a Twitter somewhere or something. Or at least like some top players were sharing something. They were all talking, you know, like Haven's probably pretty good right now. Against Dragon, obviously. And yeah, I mean, they're the ones that experiment. We're the ones that usually catch up as far as kind of stuff goes.
Very interesting. Well, lots of stuff to think about, and I'm really looking forward to today's particular Shadowverse Open. Seeing maybe, I hope we can break the curse and Havencraft squeezes through, but I do feel like up against Sword, up against Forest, Havencraft might have a little more of an issue here if Dragon Shadow isn't necessarily I mean, we saw so many turns where it was half and half or even majority Swordcraft in a representation, but we'll see how that plays out. One other thing I would love to talk about, as we did with Aya Senpai, another one of the special guests that is going to go down to MomoCon later in the month is going to be yourself, Envy. I'm super excited to see you there, of course, but I mean, have you ever been to a convention in this fashion before?
I haven't. No, this is my 2nd time flying and my 1st convention ever. So
second time flying cool. Ever?
Yeah, wow. 2nd time flying ever. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I never like flying, no matter how many times I do it.
Yeah, so many of my least favorite things.
I loved it. So.
So many of my least favorite things all crammed together. There's
it
lines,
might be because
crowds.
I'm just like lanky, and you know my knees are constantly on the chair.
Yeah, Arthur and I are both tall chaps, so flying, no.
Tall chaps. I like the terminology there, but I'm super excited. We're going to be doing a bunch of things. A Take-Two kind of special show event to kind of talk about Shadowverse, introduce the game to the attendees there, and then we're going to have time at the booth where you can come hang out with MV, Aya Senpai, Jeremiah, and myself, and lots of stuff to give away. We've got a lot of Shadowverse swag, and then of course in the evening there's going to be Shadowverse tournaments. What do you think you're going to be looking forward to the most, Envy?
The giveaways. Those are always fun to do. I love those. Yeah.
I keep trying to tell Cygames, hey, one of those bell ringer angel alarm clocks, you know, I could use that in my hotel room.
Yeah,
you know?
right. For you know, an early Christmas gift in June.
In June
or in May.
Yeah.
Whatever month this is.
I'm really excited for that. But there's going to be a ton of fun stuff. Just a lot of Shadowverse and playing with a bunch of people and kind of showing the games to a lot of newcomers and kind of helping them guide their first few steps into the card game. I'm looking forward to giving the giveaways out and seeing what people get. I think there's some really cool like physical actual cards that we can give away.
No way.
So I'm really, and I think some of them are legendary, so I kind of want to.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
I wonder if we could, I'm so excited. I'm going to see if Envy can get some and then, you know, see what she gets and probably like backdoor deal like, hey, I'll give you $5 if you give me one.
It's going to be a little bit more than $5.
Yeah, $5? How far do you think $5 would go, Envy? Would that be a legendary, a physical
for
legendary?
For a Shadowverse card?
Yeah.
Those are priceless. What do you mean? Have
Dang
you tried getting any? They're so hard to get.
Dang it.
A little more than $5.
I'll figure something. Maybe a hamburger or something. I don't know. Something of value.
Yeah, some hamburgers cost more than $5.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, I'm super excited for MomoCon. And Envy, you've been doing a lot more stuff on your channel as well, right? Kind of getting into Shadowverse space. Could you tell us a little bit more about your recent endeavors?
Yeah, I've been Twitch streaming the game for a very long time now, but YouTube recently been doing a sort of Take-Two kind of like introduction, how to play each faction kind of thing. I'm only 2 factions in right now, but by the time we're at MomoCon, I'll be done with all 7. So
all 7? Man,
yeah, all 7.
I need some lessons on how to play Take-Two. That was like the only thing I played when I first started the game because I didn't have any cards. I was like, hey, I might as well play Take-Two, and I got absolutely dumpstered. But that's nothing new. But really, actually looking forward to watching a bunch of those videos. I feel like, what is it? You need to learn at least like 5 of the crafts to kind of consistently always have one you can play. Is that right?
I mean, if you get lucky, you can probably learn 3, I think. But yeah, if you know 4 or 5, you're set. You're good. Yeah.
Huh. Very cool. Make sure you visit Envy Bear's channel. Envy, where can people find more of you?
That would be twitch.tv/nvbear or youtube.com/nvbeargg. So GG.
Cool. Make sure to go subscribe, like, follow. Wait, what? Do that.
That was, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something like that. Envy will be continuing to talk with us throughout the tournament when we come back for the semifinals and then before the finals as well. So looking forward to having Envy share her insight on how the tournament progresses. But for now, we're going to get ready for NGE Shadowverse Open number 6. So sit tight. We'll be back in just a bit.